Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining our onX Fish Masterclass on targeting midsummer bass. We'll get going in just a minute or two here, but while people are getting logged in, I wanted to go over just a couple of housekeeping items for everybody. So first things first, your audio and video are turned off, so we can't see or hear you, so no worries if you have any noise in the background or anything like that. This class is being recorded. So if you have to dip out early and want to go back and see the portion you missed, or you just want to rewatch it at a later date, we'll have it uploaded to YouTube. And then tomorrow evening, we'll send everybody an email with the YouTube links that you can go back and rewatch. If you do have any questions, please drop them in the Q&A box down below. That's the best way for us to be able to go through those questions and to provide you with an answer. The chat is also there. I see some folks in there already. That's great just for letting us know who you are, where you're tuning in from, but it is tough to keep track of questions in the chat, so please use the Q&A for that. And then we are doing a giveaway towards the end of the class. We're going to give away some of these onX fish hats like I'm wearing, so we'll post the link to that giveaway in the chat towards the end of the class, and then we'll pull those winners and get your hats shipped out tomorrow morning. My name's Jack Headland. I am not going to be talking to you very much tonight, but I am joined by Sam Sobey and Joel Nelson. And Joel is down in, I hear it's a balmy Orlando, Florida at the iCast show. How are things down there?
Sweaty as ever. Happy to be joining you from inside. Got some AC pumping. It sounds to me like a jet engine, but hey, I hear that audio over there is not so bad. So anxious to get cooking, Jack. Thank you for everything and getting us set up. This is a little different. We're at a little bit of a departure from our typical onX Fish 101, where we go through every little bit of the app, which is awesome to take you through every single feature. But tonight we've got a real special treat. We've got my friend Sam Sobey on board. And if you don't know much about Sam, you're going to learn that he is a bass fisherman for bass fishermen. He's the kind of guy, this is what you do. You're super good multi-species. I've seen some dangerous walleye pictures. I'd like to have you refrain from catching my pet walleyes. But as a bass angler, Sam knows what's up. He has fished all over the place. He's an avid tournament angler. He's a YouTube stick. He's the kind of guy that companies love working with because he's really good at explaining concepts. And that's just what he's going to do today. He's going to talk a little bit about onX Fish, how he uses it to target midsummer bass. And then he's going to give you guys the juice. He's going to give you guys a ton of info on the ways that he targets bass during this time of year. So I saw somebody checking in from La Crosse. They're going to be really happy with some of the backwaters slough information you're going to share. But no matter where you fish, no matter where you're from, if you're an onX Fish bass angler, Sam's going to help us out. So Sam, take a bow, say hello to everybody out here.
Thank you. Thank you. Heck of an intro. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Yeah, this is a great opportunity to hop on here in the webinar. And I want to let everybody know I do have the webinar chat live up right here. If you have any questions or anything that's just like at the tip of your head, shoot it here. I'm reading everything. And this is just going to be really chill, relaxed. We're going to go through different parts of the features of apps that I like and stuff that I use. And then everything. We're just going to talk fishing, talk bassing, and yeah, we're going to have fun with it. So right out the gate, I would like to get into a little river action, if that's okay. I by nature, I'm more of a lake man, but I was just recently down in La Crosse on Pool 8, and I used onX a lot down there, and it's like really, really handy. So can we screen share?
Yeah, are you seeing my screen right now, Sam?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh yeah.
You tell me where to drive, and I will take you there.
Okay, we're gonna talk aerial imagery right away. And for all you lake bass, man, I promise we'll get to you. But if you're river freaks or you want to get into fishing the river, whether that's from shore or from a boat, from a kayak, doesn't matter. This is the deal. Yeah, go on down there. Oh yeah, that Goose Island area, the Dark Slough area. Okay, so aerial imagery is your best friend on backwaters and in a river, just because the river changes so much. Contours are nice, but recent imagery and old imagery is everything. And that'll kind of really help you, especially during low water years. when it's really, really low, you can actually see like where the main channel rips through kind of those backwaters. And that's a lot of time, at least a way you can navigate through them. And that can be half the battle, is like navigating through some of the craziest parts of the backwaters. And that's where you want to be. Like in the upper Midwest, we've had crazy high water. I don't care if you're down in La Crosse or you're in southern Minnesota like myself. Like we've got a decent amount of rain, and local lakes to the river is still pretty dang high. So navigating around and pushing into the sneaky spots, that's kind of the deal. So
Sam, I had a quick question for you. You spend time in both the current imagery, but also the recent stuff, right?
yes,
I,
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
want I want to show everybody how to get into that recent imagery real quick. So
Yeah,
if you
did you show them how to get into just the aerial right out the gate?
Yes, exactly. That's going to be your base map, but even if it's not, we'll help you there too. So, first thing you need to do in your app or on the web map, this little sandwich menu right here, lower right hand part of the app, lower right hand part of the web map, doesn't matter how you're joining us. First thing you're going to see right on the screen here is map layers. I've got hybrids selected. That allows you to see some limited contours on top of the air photos. If you want to unconfuse the situation and look at just the air photos, you can select aerial, and that's the standard base map, aerial high quality. But Sam was mentioning recent satellite imagery.
Yeah.
So as soon as I click on recent stuff, you'll see that I can kind of scroll back in time and look at high water, how much things change in the springtime.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also see later how much it gets weed choked
Yeah.
and really helps you with navigation, like Sam was talking about.
And I was kind of using that too, just to find the main channel, like not the main channel, but the main current sections in all these backwaters and that whole Goose Island area. And that's like, if you can understand how the current is being pushed through there and then almost take one step back. So if you were to find complete slack water, that can be good sometimes, like the frogging can go down, but river fish do enjoy a little bit of current. They want current. So I was almost like finding where the main current was pushing through and then finding a shoot off of that or anything one step back almost from there. And that's where the cut bank fishing was really good. And if any of you guys have never heard of cut bank fishing, it's basically like it sounds. It's a bank, and through the current, it's just cutting underneath it right there. And it almost makes a little shelf where those fish can ambush. And if you go even a little farther, yeah. Oh yeah, like right where you're at right there with the mouse. Like you can kind of see this area right here. That's a real sneaky section. I was fishing this section right in here. There's a big tree right off that point of that island. So all the way down through in here, I was actually fishing cut banks in the recent Champions Tour tournament as I was out there. And you can kind of see whether it be trees like that or different fallen stuff, it creates different eddies where the current is almost getting pushed back and slicked back. And those are just like the higher percentage spots on the cut bank. And it was pretty incredible to me how the fish even like wanted to be right in the current opposed to even less of it, but still one step back, if that makes sense. Like they want to be in it, but they still also want to find like a juicy little eddy or anything that just pushes different directions, any little swirl you found. So those are just areas I was exploring in there, and basically, yeah, through the recent aerial imagery and then kind of taking a few years back, I could see where the low water was, where it was like, this is the established area the water's running through. Cut banks were a really big deal when I was down there. And then also through the recent aerial imagery, you can see where it gets cheesy. So I was there like, at the end of June when those duckweed mats are starting to really form. And it's pretty true. Like where they form in years past, that's kind of where they continue to form. And that was like my secondary pattern was basically frogging. If you fish anywhere down in La Crosse, like come late June, July, like the frog bite is the deal. And I was basically just searching out areas where it looks like it was the cheesiest. And if it had any current close to it or clean water pushing into it, they were all about it. Yeah, look at all that cheese down in there. You can see on Joel's screen.
It's great stuff that you're talking about, and it's interesting because you mentioned going back several years, and I think that's kind of a cheat code. Like with the recent imagery, it's nice to look back at what was happening last week or even this past spring, but going back several years, like you said, you kind of get a pattern or an idea for what weed growth can look like, has looked like in past years, and kind of project that forward to think of what it might mean today. And like you scouted this out before you ever even got here, right? Like this is from the couch, right?
Yeah, this is, and I'm not like a river rat by trade by any means. Like I'm not like sitting here saying I'm a river rat, but it was at least a starting point for me, and it helped me feel comfortable. Like here's areas I can look that I at least know vegetation has grown throughout the years. Like here's a cheesy back cut, here's a cheesy back cut, here's a cheesy back cut, and I'd go into these areas, and sometimes I'd find mats, and then I'd come back the next day, and there was new mats that had formed and new mats, and that was a really big deal down there. Like if I had found a productive area of water, a productive little chute, and then new mats started to form, it was like more and more bass just kept coming and coming and coming to it. It's like you can fish a bunch of mats down there, but I really feel like these bass love the fresh mats, the newest mats, that duckweed mat that comes in there, and that's frog heaven. So that was like
That's
that was a
awesome.
big thing for me, at least gaining some confidence on the river.
That's great stuff. I want to show people one more time how to find that. If you want to figure out how to use recent imagery, it's really simple. Lower right-hand part of your app or lower right-hand side of your web map, if you're joining us from your laptop or desktop, click this little sandwich layer menu. You click on it once, and you have the option to go high quality aerial photos, which is just high quality, but from a single date. Or like Sam was saying, the recent satellite info, where you can literally scroll back a few years and look at the change over time in those areas which tend to have the best weed growth historically.
Yeah. And one thing I want to say too, obviously, if people know onX, just the mothership company, they know like it's basically built to not just hunt with, but to kind of scout out public land, private land, property lines. Some of my good buddies came to the weigh-in and they're like, we fish out of kayaks. And I was like, that's awesome. That's fine. I was making a 40-minute run to this area I was fishing, but they can hit it like no problem. I'll show you right where I was fishing. If you go down to the Stoddard area, this was like super productive. Yeah, go even just a little south of that. And my buddies are like, "Oh, just give me the juice. Like, can I kayak to it?" I was like, "Absolutely." Yeah, the Stoddard area right in there. That was like plan B for me. And this is a historical area. If you scrolling right here, you can see the public access right there. Bingo. And that was the dot I laid to my buddy. I sent it to him and I was like, just kayak straight across. And there's like, obviously with the river, yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery. But like at that exact time, there was just mats forming and forming and forming and forming. You can see all those mats in that back bay and that whole area. There was resident fish there. I don't know if a lot of fish just spawn there and stick there throughout the end of June and July, but there was a ton. Yeah, look at that. Unbelievable. So yeah, then my buddies were like, okay, cool. We'll just kayak like 200 yards and we're going to go smash on what took you 3 days to find out. I was like, perfect.
So the cool part is I know you fish a ton of lakes and you're applying some of the same stuff to lakes as well, right?
Oh, absolutely. So like we were talking about, it's basically been high water here for 3-4 weeks, kind of around the metro area. And that's like, to me, like any little creek or inlet or anything that comes in, it's just a high percentage area to find bass. So if it's a brand new lake I'm going to, or if it's a lake that I know, onX Fish does a really good job. Like if you could go to any lake toward the metro or anything like that. onX Fish has like these little river icons that kind of come into the lake, which is really nice. And that's like a fast way to find them. But if not, you can scroll around on the aerial and you can just find little culverts or any little run in it. And if it's high water, dude, like I don't care, any fish species, like they relate to them because there's minnows and everything pouring in.
All right, Sam. So a lot of people are interested in recent imagery. You've shown them quite a bit on how you use it. What are you throwing, man? What I mean, we talked slop frog, and obviously
Yeah.
love catching them top water, right? Like when that's good, that's great. But what else right now are you using in terms of presentations to get bit?
So if you can remember, was it last summer? No, I feel like 2 summers ago, it was extremely dry and the lakes were so low. That whole year, I feel like I was fishing offshore, just because the shallow cover was like out of the water. I fish a lot of lakes where there's a lot of laydowns, a lot of trees, a lot of good milfoil, a lot of good pads. Like that was not relevant. So now fast forward 2 years later to today, and it's like the opposite because of the high water. And I don't know if it's a lack of spraying, at least around some of the lakes I'm by, like the weed growth has boomed and everything is underwater. So right now, currently, I've been doing like not just a lot of slopping, but a lot of flipping. A lot of flipping wood right now. I'm flipping a lot of beavers, a lot of cleanup craws, a lot of bronco bugs. Like I'm flipping a lot of wood. Like go up to the wood and get close to the bank because they're relating to it. Docks have been playing. And then most recently, like the milfoil and the coontail on a lot of different lakes are growing better than I've seen it in years. So like that's a matter of, I don't care what you have for a boat or your electronics. That's a matter of driving around and using your eyes. And I'm basically looking for the greenest, most beautiful isolated patches of milfoil and coontail, and I'm flipping right through them. If it's really thick, I'm going anywhere from 5/8 to an ounce. I'm punching right through them a lot with an ounce. And if it's a little more sparse or the patches aren't just like as dense, then I'll go down to like, a half ounce or even a 5/8, still kind of a heavy weight, but at least I'm going lighter and I'm just picking them apart. And the coolest thing with like milfoil or coontail fishing is like, sometimes there can be a lot of it and it's just tedious to pick through. But when you find fish congregated in it, like when you find them, it's like 0 or 100 and you have them to yourself. It's like, it's the sweetest thing in the world. Like they're yours. And also another thing with the aerial imagery, like I find a lot of productive water where the milfoil and coontail grows, like from the aerial images. Like you could go to some shallow, even like if you were to go into maybe Hallstads or something like that, way to the left on Minnetonka. We'll see if it shows it. A lot of different new lakes I'll go to, like I'll look at the aerial right away and you can just kind of see the bays and sometimes around just the shorelines, like where some of these patches are growing. And that's where like flipping back throughout the years, through the recent imagery, like you can find a year where they took the picture or the picture was photographed when the weeds were up high and you're like, oh, okay, I get it. Like the weeds are growing in this section of the lake or they're growing like, from 8 to 12 feet, maybe a little bit farther out, or some of them are really tight to the bank. But yeah, finding productive weeds right now, shallow, is like, it's been good.
Very cool. The $1 million question that I always have is, I know you travel, I know you fish different lakes all the time. How do you find lakes that have what it is you want to catch? I know you love catching big fish. Maybe there's days that you just want to tee off and catch numbers. How are you just, let's say you're going to Brainerd. Let's go to Brainerd together. How do we find good bass lakes? What do you look for? What do you use in the app to figure out in that regard?
I want to do the simple answer and then I want to do a sneaky answer after that.
All right.
Like I'm going to give away some juice after that for bass anglers that are going for hogs. So right away, filter feature. Filter feature is your best friend, especially if you're going up to a buddy's cabin or you're just in the area for a weekend, you're just fishing around, or you're just trying to find a new lake. Like filter feature, 100%. Click on largemouth and smallmouth. Like I just want to know right away which lakes have largemouth and smallmouth in it. And also, if you guys are on certain missions, like I'll do that too, like where I'll be like, I just need smallmouth in my life. That's where I'll just definitely hit the smallmouth filter feature and just start going.
That's good. I like that. That's great.
And that shows us all the lakes. Like that shows us every lake that's had smallmouth surveyed in it. And that's at least a baseline. And then from there, that's when I really get into the, the surveys and what they surveyed.
Yeah, obviously there's the trophy potential deal, shows off a couple big fish lakes, gives you some options and opportunities. When you dig into the lake specifically though, like let's click on a trophy potential lake.
Yeah, let's get into one.
We won't pick on any of these small ones. I feel bad. I gotta hide
no,
them.
Dude, pick on them. Pick on them.
Quick.
Go into one.
All right, we'll click on this one. Here we go.
Pick on them.
Pick on it a little bit. So you see right away, boom, it wasn't lying. This is a high abundance largemouth lake that also has trophy potential. The way we know it is trophy potential, fish in 2019 was a 20. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And obviously a pile of other fish surveyed up to that point.
And when was it surveyed?
2023.
Okay, 2023. Dang. And then the previous one before that was 2019. Click on the 2019, yeah. Interesting. And then go to 2023 again. Nice. So it's like consistently held big fish for years.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, scroll in closer to that Spirit Lake. I like that area. Okay, look at that. Look at that creek to the left side right out the gate. Like that's what I want to see the public access. So let's find the public access if it has one. Nice. Okay. Spot 1 and 2, I check right out the gate, high water year, public access, and then that creek right there. One of them's flowing in, one of them's flowing out. Hit them both. I don't care. Obviously, the one that flows in makes sense, like the water's pushing in, but hit them both. Hit them both immediately. That's what I would do. And then it also looks like it could be a lot of cattails kind of leading up to the creek. Like wherever there's the moving water, I always look adjacent to. I'll go left, I'll go right. Like a lot of times these fish will just stack up on one side of them if the weeds are a little bit more productive, because especially lake largemouth, like opportunistic feeders, but they're lazy. You know what I mean? They're like, I want to be near the food, but I kind of just want to kick back. And yeah, I'll just find a nice little patch of pads or milfoil laying, and then poof, and then they'll find their buddies and they'll all be stacked up.
Yeah, this shows up pretty well. You can actually see a lot of these lily pad fields that are showing up in this lake. And I've fished this lake before, so a lot of that is lily pads that are showing up, but also some shallow, like you said, milfoil or coontail, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Click on the survey again. Right here, and then go to species. Oh. Okay, so this is maybe a little bit deeper deal that I go into, especially looking for trophy largemouth, is I don't just go to the lakes that have largemouth in them. I go to lakes that have largemouth in them, and then I'm also comparing the other species. You can call my bluff on it, anybody can, but the lakes that have really quality bluegills, really quality panfish, and also big pike in them also tend to have like giant largemouth. If the bluegills get big, the bass get big. Like, and that's just true. And if they're surveying 9-inch bluegills, like they're growing trophy class bluegills. That's a good bass lake.
Love it. So, because there's a relationship between those species, right? Like some of those bass are eating bluegills, is what you're thinking.
Yeah, they're eating bluegills, but it's also just like if the bluegills have this big growing potential, like, oh my gosh, that lake has big bass in it. If the pike get up to 36 inches too, like, I don't know. It seems like if you find lakes that the pike are really stunted, the bluegills are stunted, the bass will kind of tend to be the same exact way. But if these lakes almost have like maybe potentially a little lower pike numbers and the pike are big apex predators, those bass will grow to be big apex predators. And the bluegills, like it's almost like the lake is in balance. That's kind of like at least what I think. It's not like one thing is way out of the norm. Like you'll
No, I
find
think
little lakes that those pike are just like stunted. And
that's a super top secret thing. Like big bluegills and big bass go together, and people think about it. It's like, well, it makes a ton of sense, but you see this lake, the majority of the population is over 6 inches, which is not the case for a lot of lakes. Once you start looking at these surveys, you see there gonna be a lot of stunted bluegills in some of these lakes, but
yeah,
this one's stacked.
I
Quality
love
gills
that.
over time. Love it.
I also like to see too, like how big the lake is. Like you can look at it on a map, but like even if you go back, you can see like how many acres a lake is. So like if you're trying to lake hop during a day, and like maybe you're with a couple buddies or even by yourself, and you're like, I want to hit 3 lakes today. Like the small ones are like really fun to hit because you can kind of break them down quick. You know what I mean? You can kind of be like, all right, I'm either getting in here, having success, I'll stay, or you can get in, be like, I don't have a clue, or maybe it's not that great. You can bounce. Like it's fun to see how big the lakes are, and you kind of want to put it on your hit list.
Yeah, you talked about lake hopping. Like, I think that's the coolest part about all that DNR, all that fisheries data to me is like at any point you can take a left-hand turn and say, I'm done catching all the big largies I want. I want to find some smallmouth. And
Yeah.
I don't know if I need trophies. Sometimes I just need the tug, man. I want to catch 100 of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a high abundance lake like Serbent might be something that you'd be interested in checking out. So yeah, using the filters in a way that helps just, yeah, changes your moment and your mood changes, right?
Yeah. And it's like when when you're lake hopping, breaking down these lakes, it's like you can just kind of run game. You can go out there and be like, okay, does it look like this lake has a ton of structure in it? Does it look like it has main lake points and different humps? No. Okay. These small little lakes sometimes are fairly featureless. And you can go out there and be like, I'll run some docks, get a little sample, run some weeds, get a little sample, and then maybe play with the offshore bite. But it's like you can almost just like run it really, really quick just to be like, does it have potential? And if it does, it's like, all right, let's lock down here for maybe half a day and let's try to catch some hogs.
So what were those locations again? You said right when we got to the lake, you'd check out near the landing, you'd check out any water inflows. You said a docks program, punching
Yeah.
punching some weed mats. Those are like 4 or 5 patterns, right?
Docs program, and then I would just like it's never a bad idea. I love to do like a little lap around a portion of the lake or the lake, and I can at least get my eyes on it. Like I love to just do like it's the hardest thing to do because right away you'll drop it and be like, that looks good to cast right there. But it's
Yeah.
like if you can somehow just like go, don't tie up your rods yet or don't pull out your rods yet. Let's do a little lap around the lake and at least get your eyes on stuff. Sometimes it'll just help it all come together that much faster.
Well, I love it. Definitely dropping waypoints on these areas is kind of a milk run as you're looking, right? Like you described a bunch of different areas, inflows, just docks, different areas. Maybe you'll find a section on the air photos where it's like this section of docks looks super juicy. It's near deep water. I like
Yeah.
the weed growth near it, like dropping those waypoints and putting it down and finding, a way to make sure that you revisit those areas is awesome. But I want to do a deep dive on those patterns. So
Yeah.
give me the 2 baits you have tied on for each of these patterns. Docks. Ready, set, go.
Docs. Sounds simple, but like a jig of your choosing for the watercolor that's appropriate. You cannot go wrong with green pumpkin for most watercolor. And then if it's a little dirtier, I love green pumpkin and a green pumpkin, black and blue. Black and blue is a staple. Green pumpkin is a staple. I love marrying them together. Besides that, a wacky rig. If it's calm out, the wacky rig is unbeatable. And yeah, I'll run docks at that and at least get an idea. If I'm going to try to get a little secretive after that, then maybe I'll start really getting finessey. And if it's a smallmouth lake, I'm not afraid to skip, little grubs or small Ned rigs underneath the docks or just around the shallow structure. But
Sweet.
yeah, then if we back out, if you're just looking to cover water, like you got to have a chatterbait in your hand. I don't care if it's windy or not windy. You got to have a chatterbait. A swim jig in the upper Midwest is totally underutilized. I'm kind of coming back to it. It seemed like I threw it a lot more when I was younger, but right now, especially with how good the weeds are, it's like a good way to just cover water, especially because I don't care if you're in southern Minnesota, Brainerd, or up north. Like these lakes are grass driven. You know what I mean? And at least it can help you get a clue or get around an area. It's like it's a jig, so you can cast it out there and just reel it in, or you can cast it out there and reel it in. Oh, pop it by some weeds, drop to the bottom, pop a little bit, burn it. You can just fish a swim jig a lot. It's really versatile bait. So I've been kind of playing with swim jig a lot more this past year, and it's helped me just find productive areas.
I love it. That's great. All right. So, and you already talked about your punching program, using heavy
Yeah.
weights, bigger baits, some creature baits, things like that. Uh, Tell me about frogging. And we did get a quick question. Reminder, if you got questions for Sam, drop them in the chat. Please do. Like, we'll answer some as we go. If they make sense of what we're talking about, we'll try to reserve an open Q&A to the end to make sure that everybody gets their questions answered. But tell us your favorite frog. That was the question we had.
I will. I will. I've been kind of getting into popping frogs this year. I feel like I can walk them really good on the spot, like a Spro popping frog. Terminator makes a really good popping frog as well. And then just like a Spro Bronze Eye 65. Like it's just in black, man. Like black and white, but like black. I don't care what watercolor, black. And the way I think of it is like I think they just see profile so well. But if you were to just do this I don't know if you guys can really see this, but like I have my flashlight out, right? And that's what a bass is doing as he's looking up into the sun. And if that frog is above him, he's not really seeing color too well. He's just basically seeing profile. So I want that profile to be the most defined. So that's why, like, I just have a lot of confidence in black. They're looking up, and I don't really think they're seeing color all that much. I think they're seeing a lot of profile.
I think that's a super cool tip. I know anytime people talk about night fishing in top waters and silhouetting baits, it's the same story. It's like black. It's
Black.
provides contrast, right?
Yeah. And black in general, like, I know we're talking frogs, but if you guys are fishing the bank all the way to offshore, I don't care what water clarity, it could be gin clear or it can be really muddy. Like black is a player. Black is a total player. Straight black, a straight black jig, straight black Cinco, straight black trick worm, straight black robo worm. Like you could run it from your drop shot all the way to your Cinco. Like black is just gets bit.
Very cool. Very cool. I got a couple things on the screen highlighted. I know you've fished gull before many times,
Yeah.
I'm sure. And none of these little locations are probably going to be news to you, but if you were a new angler and you're checking out a lake like gull,
Yeah.
one thing to note is that as you select species like largemouth, these areas will pop up specifically for largemouth and highlighted in red that you can click on and get some information. So, like you see, largemouth are mentioned here. They're talking about two deep holes, jigs and craws, a lot of seasonal information built in. You know, if it's good in the fall, it'll tell you. If it's good, because of weed growth in the summer, it'll tell you that. So there's a lot built into these area insights. And I would imagine this is a good head start for somebody that's never fished the lake, right?
Big time, big time. I've got buddies that have like cabins and they go to them like once a year. And that's the first thing they'll be like, oh, have you ever fished that lake? And I'll be like, no, I haven't. And then I'll drop a waypoint in onX. And then I'll go, this waypoint is right next to this button I want you to hit. And it's the aerial insight.
Nice.
Have you talked about sharing waypoints yet?
I have not. That would be a good cue. Go for it. Tell me how you do it. What do you do?
Well, I do this a lot when I'm bassing, but like I will find stuff bassing that I like. I mean, I know we're not talking ice fishing, but like I'll find a lot of stuff bassing that I want to come back on ice fishing. So maybe I'll be out bassing, I graph over a wicked piece of structure or a sunken tree or some brush piles or stuff like that. Those are places I want to come back and ice fish. And I'm just like, I feel like I'm kind of a waypoint junkie. Like I just want them on my phone as much as I want them on my graphs, as much as I want to have access to them at all times.
Yeah.
So yeah, show them how you drop waypoint and then how you'd send it to a buddy.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely. Definitely it's easier on the app side of the screen, and I'm
oh
set up
sure.
to do web maps, so we can maybe demo that, but like literally it's as simple on this screen as upper right-hand corner. You can go ahead and set up exactly as I'm showing you. So I'm going to discard this one and take you through it. You click on the add waypoint upper right side on the web. And you can choose whatever kind of waypoint shape you want, whatever kind of icon. Jack gives this talk way better than I do, but it comes from a message of love in both directions. And it's that like you need to be descriptive with your waypoints.
No,
Or
you do 100%. I've lived my whole life up till about 2 or 3 years ago of just like dropping pins and not labeling them, not putting icons, not changing the colors, anything. And then you go back and you don't know what you're looking at. Or I go out in the ice and I'm like, I have all this marked. Like, what did I mark here? Like, if you just take the extra second, click the right color, click the right icon, it's just, you're going to build a library and you can reference it and be like really proficient with it.
So
Read
yeah,
large. Yeah.
reed largies, that's a spot right off of North Long. It's got a big reed bed. I've caught largemouth there before. We did just a few weeks ago. That's something that you can drop in, save, and then once it's there, obviously you can click share just like you would and go ahead and save that link, copy that link, drop it in a text to a buddy, send it over email. However you want to send it to them, you can go ahead and do that once you have that link copied, which is really cool. Like
Yeah.
obviously a neat thing.
I want to talk about Gull Lake too, because Gull Lake is I'm no Gull Lake hammer, but I've fished it quite a bit. Like it's such a dynamic lake. Gull Lake in general, especially if people are just looking to go bassing somewhere, maybe they want to take their friends or their family bassing. Gull Lake has so much potential, not just for fish, but really high quality fish too. Like there's so many 3 to 4 pound class fish out there, and you can catch a bass 18 different ways on Gull Lake, all the way from this much water to 26 feet of water. And that's because it's got beautiful, sandy, shallow docks. Like, yeah, right in that north section there, that's beautiful, sandy docks. And I'm looking and finding those a lot with aerial too. I'll go through Gull Lake and kind of the small lakes that it's attached. Yeah, and even go to the right more there. You can zoom in. You can just see the shallow, sandy docks. Famous lake for dock fishing right there. There's been more tournaments won on docks on Gull Lake than, I don't know, probably anything else. But on the flip side, it has the most beautiful milfoil and coontail in it that grows out deep. So it's like if you don't want to dock fish, you can take one step back and it's like you can just flip and flip and flip and flip. But that's kind of a double-edged sword too, because like if you can locate them, then you can replicate it across the lake. Like are they actually in the clumps kind of right before the break, or are they on the weed edge right as the lake breaks down? Gull Lake is really, really cool that way. So yeah, you can catch fish anyway. Drop shot and jigworm, docks, flipping reeds. You can crawl up into those small little lakes and hit beautiful little points and hard spots. Like it's just a dynamic fishery.
I love it. Very cool. Good information for anybody checking that area out. Absolutely. And like, wow, to your point, you can really get lost up in here. There's a bunch of stuff to go back to if you really want
Yeah.
to. Super cool. All right. So this time of year, like we're not to dog days yet. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Fishing's still pretty decent. Like you're finding fish, you're getting bit, but eventually like weather and what kind of day you're going to have may be dependent upon it, right? So
Big time.
I want you to take me through how weather affects how you fish for bass, number one. Like, are you a morning angler? Are you an evening angler? Are you looking to make use of the moon calendar? Like, just tell me some of the stuff that makes sense to you from a
Yeah,
weather perspective.
go into the weather feature. onX Fish has a really good weather feature. And like as a fisherman, I'm always looking at the weather. I'm looking at what the weather's going to do in the next couple days. I'm looking if it's been consistent, anything's going to change. But as far as bassing goes, the coolest thing with bass is they bite, I feel like the best later in the afternoon to the evening. Obviously, certain lakes have good morning bites, and a morning bite can always be really good, or a sunset bite can be good. But like a late afternoon after it's been like the hottest part of the day and the sun's been beaten down, I don't know if it's just their metabolism is at the highest, the water temperature is the highest at that point, and they're pounding. Like I feel like I've caught more bass between 3 and 6 p.m. than I have like any other time throughout just the middle of the summer. Like just straight up warm part. Also, if you go down, you can see like the pressure, the barometric pressure. And this is kind of my beliefs on the pressure. Like, obviously you got a million guys going, if it's high pressure, it's gonna be really bad fishing day, low pressure. Like I'm really big on watching it either be really stable or change, any change that's coming. So it's like if you see a front that's moving in or the pressure changes, like they're gonna bite here. And if you've got productive water that maybe you're like, oh, we're just fishing this lake for the first time, but we got 4 bites over there, 1 bite here, 2 bites here, 1 bite here. If you see that pressure is about to change, like at a certain point in time, go back to the area where you got 4 bites, because there's probably more fish there. You didn't catch every bass in the lake. Like it's any change in that pressure, like there's potential for it to go down. That's kind of my belief on it.
Yeah, I like it. It looks like via the barometer and the forecast for it, there looks to be a front moving through sometime in during Friday. It's going to ride high into the 30s throughout
Yeah.
much of the week, but as we get to Friday, you can start to see the bottom fall out there. We're going to start dropping down into Saturday, and it's going to
Yeah.
keep diving. To your point, yeah, I love that. A change can bring on some different conditions in fishing, and obviously knowing when the sunset is going to be important if you're targeting them in the afternoon or late afternoon. And Then
And
we've
the
got
wind too,
majors,
like
minors.
it's good to look at the wind. Like I always look at the wind. Same thing with the pressure. Like if a wind direction changes or anything changes, I feel like it opens up bite windows. And obviously like playing the wind too. Like if it's been blowing for 3 days on one end of these small lakes that you're going to go kind of play around in, like fish that end of the lake. Like some of these small lakes are pretty wind driven.
That's cool. I just added wind on a waypoint here, so that's another cool feature within onX. For your individual waypoints, it kind of shows you where the wind's coming out of currently and posting that up for you, which may not sound like a big deal till you're actually starting to think about how you'd fish these spots, right?
Yeah.
Kind of queuing up, thinking about, well, hey, this one on the far end of the lake, might be getting more wind from the longer side of the lake direction. It's going to have bigger fetch, might have a bigger effect if it is a wind driven bite. But tell me a little bit about the moon phases. Does it matter to you? Do you fish full moons? Do
I,
you fish new moon? Like what do you do? What do you believe
I'm
in?
gonna I'm gonna give away a little juice right here. I'm gonna give away a little juice. If if you're like you know, if you're a musky dude, you're watching the moons big time. But if you're a bass dude, you can also be watching the moon big time. So whether it's beginning of June, middle of June, end of June, early July, middle of July, late July, I am watching the moon because I am watching the bluegill beds. And these bluegills will kind of recycle or spawn at different times and spawn in waves. And fishing bluegill beds for trophy caliber bass is like a big deal, a really big deal. If you can find bluegill beds with your eyes, like if it's a little deeper, throw a drop shot out there. You know, you can flip it, throw something finessey out there. If it's a little shallower, you can throw something weightless like a Cinco or just a really lightweighted craw. Like I love fishing bluegill beds. They're always near hard spots, and big bass are always around them. They're always around them. So anytime I see a full moon, I go, I'm going to return to these bluegill beds because there'll be new ones that are present. Because some of these bluegills they'll just pull. Like I was just fishing a lake last week. These bluegill beds were empty. There was a full moon. I want to say, when was the last full moon?
Looks like the 10th in this neck of the woods.
Yeah, the 10th, somewhere around that time, we went and checked some bluegill beds, and it was like, boom, we scanned over them. There was new bluegills there in the middle of the beds, and it was like, boom, like clockwork. There's bass around them. They travel together, they live together, and I fish bluegill beds like all year, and
That's awesome.
I watch the moon a lot. That's sneaky, and I shouldn't have said
Stop me
that.
before I say more, he says. I love it. Great stuff. Yeah, to your point, definitely the weather portion of the onX Fish app is this thing that not a lot of people know much about. But if you're familiar with onX Hunt, like you know the quality of the weather information there. This is a lot of that same information, but we take it even another step further for fish with the moon phases, the majors, the
Yeah.
minors. And it's funny, this is about bass, but I just got a great big walleye, like 1 minute other side of the major, not trying to fish the major.
Yeah.
Hook up with this pig, and then you look at it like, huh, interesting. Like maybe the muskies guys have something figured out, right?
I've got enough musky buddies that they've like convinced me too that the major minor are a big deal. And then like if I ever have like a really wicked bite window that happens, I'll go back and look, and it's always close by one. And you're just like, I don't fully understand it. I am a believer in it though.
I love it. Very cool. All right, so we talked filters, we talked a lot of aerial imagery and how you use that. We talked a lot about the patterns you're using right now to get bit. Um, I saw you did a really sweet kind of cheat code video on the Humminbird Explorer.
Yeah.
And I saw you were kind of doing some side imaging over some rock edges. And do you fish much deep rock this time of year, or do you wait till later in the season to go out at deep rock?
Usually right now, this time of year, that's like when I'm doing deep rock. And I
Okay.
love fishing deep rock. Like honestly, like I'd consider myself even more of an offshore angler than, just a shallow slop guy, even though that's a lot of lakes around me. Like I love fishing shallow slop, but like throwing a drop shot and a jig worm or dragging a big jig or even a finesse jig, like I love that. I grew up doing that. And that was kind of like, that was one way that my pals and I, we felt like we were just getting more and better and quality bites. And Yeah, it's really relevant this time of year. Like the whole bass, transition as it would happen is like, they're spawning, they're up in the shallows, they're by shallow cover, they're making their beds. And then as the water temperature rises, they've now spawned. And then if there's, great shallow cover around, they'll hang out there a little bit. And a portion of them will just be resident fish. They'll hang around the docks, the weeds, stuff like that. And then as time progresses, where it's like, middle, late of June now, they've pushed out to maybe there's thick, beautiful weeds or a weed edge. And now that we've got into July and you're kind of mid-July, like now they're starting to really crawl around their summer haunts. And that's like, your main lake points, your rock piles, your humps, like they are out there. And sometimes those are the biggest quality fish.
I think you and I don't live too terrible far from each other in kind of near the metro, southern part of the state. And it's interesting because the water tends to be a little bit darker, murkier, more
Yeah.
eutrophic. It's like you can park on those spots and you would go up north and you would have to stay off of them and cast to them because you're going to spook fish. But like you could be right on top of some of these spots, even in like 10 foot of water, and you're just fine.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
No problem.
And that's where like also besides just like deep water structure, like looking secondary of like what looks the most obvious. That's what I love to look for. Like if you see a lake that's got a big main lake point, like even you could go to anything like Gull, like even by Rocky Point. If you kind of look in there, yeah, even yeah. Yeah, like to me, that big main Rocky Point and obviously some of the structure out there looks super sweet. But I like to go just adjacent to the left or to the right, in or out. Like, what are the spots that are closest to the most obvious looking spot? The most obvious looking spot always has fish, but those fish get probably beat up the most. It's like where are they sliding? Because they want to be there. Sometimes those spots have the hardest bottom, the most rocks, the best looking spine. Like they're a beautiful spot, and those bigger quality fish will just sometimes slide just a little left, just a little right, just a little in, just a little out.
Cool. Very cool. Um, Forward facing sonar, you're using it not as much in the weeds or just as much in the weeds as you would in the deep rock?
Not as much as in weeds. And kind of by me, it's like everything's so thick right now.
Yeah.
And the algae is pretty thick too. Like it's not playing as much. A lot of these lakes are grass driven. Like on some of these lakes where, the weeds aren't as prevalent, I'm using it quite a bit. Or sometimes I'm using it just to define the weed edge or these thicker clumps, like offshore grass, like on Gull Lake. Like if I'm fishing an edge and I know there's a weed edge there, a lot of times I use forward facing sonar just to pan around and be like, whoa, this is the thickest, densest clump in 18 feet of water. Am I seeing fish in it? Not exactly. But I know it's the thickest, deepest clump. Like I'm making my flip right there.
I love it. Very cool. We got a couple Q&A things we're going to handle here.
Yeah.
We're not short on time. We're getting towards the end of the presentation. I want to make sure we get to these questions. There's some really good ones here.
Yeah, fire away.
From Michael Hansen, Sam, how would you approach Lake Onalaska, especially the massive weed flat near the Big Island running north-south? Oh boy.
Hold on one second. Where is
Lake Onalaska, down by La Crosse.
No, I know. I want to see where is this question on the live chat. I'm not seeing it.
Oh, it's on the Q&A.
Oh, okay. My bad. Let me go to I got the Q&A up. Okay, Sam, how would you approach Lake Onalaska, especially the massive weed flat near the Big Island running north-south? Let's go to Lake Onalaska right now.
Mm-hmm.
So right out the gate, I'll say I was fishing in a portion of Pool 8 that was right next to Lake Onalaska. And there's a big spillway right there. One thing I noticed right away is like there's a ton of water that is spilling from Lake Onalaska kind of down into that Pool 8 section. See if I can move the Q&A. Yeah. See that spillway section? Yeah, it says spillway right there, right to your left. If you scroll out just a touch.
Am I close?
Yeah. Okay, yeah, to the left more, to the left. So, or I guess more, you're right. Sorry, my bad.
There you go.
So right out the gate, like these spillways right here and any other spillway on the downside of Onalaska, like there's so much water flowing out of them that it's like these fish are setting up not only in that small section where the spillway is where I was fishing, but on that side of Onalaska, there's a ton of boats fishing there. And I was like, this makes total sense. It's like there's not too much rushing water, but it's like there's still water moving and there's still bait being pushed. That whole section down there, I would start there. And as far as like massive grass flats go, I would cover water. I'm covering water with a swim jig, chatterbait. If there's tons of mats, just rip the frog fast as hell. Like just reaction. And then if you get a clue or a sign, then you can really slow down. But I'd say like swim jig and frog in that whole section on Alaska is your best friend. Just cover water. That's kind of what I've gained from fishing the river is like they will show you and they'll be so present when they're there, but when they're not, there's so much stuff that looks juicy on the river. There's a lot of dead water.
I love it. Awesome. Great answer. Another question from Blake Augie. How do you attack offshore? How do you find spots, top baits? Once you're not talking about weed fishing anymore, or it could be weeds, but they'd just be away from the bank.
Yeah. Right away, I end up looking at the map and I see anything that obvious that sticks out, whether that's a main lake point, a small little nipple that sticks out, or maybe a jetty or any neck down areas of lakes too. A lot of times those are high spots. So like if there's a chain of lakes or a big bay and a small bay come together, it seems like there's always a saddle there and there's always a little bit higher spot. If you can locate an area that you think looks productive or you're trying to hit offshore, you cannot go wrong with the drop shot. I really believe that. A drop shot, a Ned rig, a jig worm, throw anything green pumpkin, whether that's a trick worm, whether that's a janitor, a robo worm, green pumpkin, and just go slow and really like use your rod and the drop shot to your advantage. Because if you spend a little bit more money, you can get the tungsten drop shot weights. And it's the same thing as like throwing a jig down there. Like, I don't care if you have no electronics or you have great electronics, you can really feel what makes a spot good, whether that's really, really hard bottom or if you've got gravel or rocks. But also some of the best milfoil feels like you are dragging your drop shot weight or your jig or anything through a bunch of sticks. They have such hard base stocks. So it's like you can throw up there in weeds and you almost feel it. It'll be gummy or gross. And then you'll feel like you're almost hitting sticks and you're like, oh my gosh, hold on, let's slow down. Like I'm near really productive weeds offshore. And then also an interesting way to kind of get better at offshore fishing, and this is just a tactic I've been playing with the past couple of years, is like maybe you go to a main lake point or a bank that you caught them off the bank. If you catch them one way and you found productive water, go back and fish it at a little bit different depth range, or go back and fish it with a different presentation, whether that's dragging a big jig or whether that's throwing a hair jig, whether that's throwing a Ned rig. Like play with speed, play with presentations, like refish the same water you already know there's fish there and just hit it a different way. And that's one way I've become more efficient and just get more confidence in fishing different ways offshore. And then also that's a good way to figure out like what's actually going down, because you might catch some fish offshore and then be like, all right, let's actually hit it more in the mid-range section. Like let's hit it not on the edge of this break where there's rocks. Let's hit it close by the weeds, and you run it a certain way, run it back a certain way, and then you kind of find the most productive way. And a lot of times you can run that throughout the whole lake.
Love it. Great. Thank you. Greg Larson asks, in July and August, do you do any nighttime fishing?
Greg, I haven't. I've done a little bit of night fishing with some buddies, and that's like, throwing top water, throwing whopper ploppers, stuff like that. But I know it's such a big deal down south. Like I'd really love to get into it more. I know some of my buddies throw giant rat baits and different big wake baits, and they've caught big ones doing it. I'd like to try it more though.
Yep. Cool. Lance Walker asks, what are some overlooked indicators or subtle environmental changes? Something small that suggests bass are actively feeding in an area.
I like that one. Well, a lot of times, like if you're lucky enough to be out there when it's not crazy winds or maybe right toward the evening, like I'll just see, even sometimes in the craziest spots, like I'll see bluegills or schools of bluegills like pop or just like just ripple out on the top of the water. I'm not like seeing bass crush them. I'm seeing like you ever pull up on a spot quick and there's a school of bluegills and they just go and they fire off? Like that'll happen like right in the morning and right in the evening. And that's like a really fast way to be like, there's bass actively pushing the bait and they're just ripping around. And that's a cool way.
Cool. Very cool. Michael Hansen clarifying his question a little bit. He's talking about Red Oak Ridge, is the name of the island. He's
Okay.
piggyback. What should I look for? Holes, depth, anything subtle, specific to look for? There's a lot of lakes in the area that have these massive weed flats. He says he
Yeah.
feels he could always be approaching them better. So I'm just going to zoom in a
Yeah.
little bit to Red Oak Ridge. Can you see it?
Yeah.
There you go.
Beautiful. I would look for, especially for mats around that island. Like if you have any ability to get out there, here's some kind of recon work, but if you have any ability to get out there way early in the year before the weed growth is up, that's a great time to do some scouting and see where there's any bit of depth, like along those flats. If you can find any change, I'm talking like if it is a flat, but you find a certain section where it's like, okay, it's actually 4 feet here opposed to 3 feet, those bass will use that and abuse that. And besides that, I would just look for new mats and new development. Like a lot of these big established mats will hold the fish in it, but then anytime you go back and you see this fresh duckweed mat or new mats that are congregating, it's like they will pull out of those old mats and use those new mats because they're just easier to hunt in big time.
Cool. All right. I like it. Dan asks, when is an Android version available? Also, do you have an ETA when South Dakota will be included? 2 answers.
I love that question. I love that
It's a great question. Android is something that I use. That my phone is an Android, which Sam gives me a hard time about. But we love our Android users. We're just not quite ready yet. And I could give you a day, and then I would break your heart by not making that date. So we're not saying when it's going to be done. It will be soon. We're talking months, not years. That's as close as I can get it for you. Closer to weeks than months, but it's going to be something that we're working on. We're trying like crazy to get it done for ice. We're going to see what we can do for you guys. And we really want people to get in there, whether you're Android, Droid, or iPhone. When it comes to South Dakota, that's going to kind of depend on some of the data that we're processing. We're trying to get good looking contours for you guys, but also data from their game and parks division. So working on getting South Dakota in the map, but very soon we're going to have most of the Midwest here. Again, trying to shoot for that early 2026 at the latest for all things related to the Midwest. So stay tuned. We'll have new states dropping here in the coming weeks. Can't wait to share it with you guys when we get a chance.
I love that. And if we're talking bass too, like I don't care if we're talking any species, but specifically bass, like I am so excited for when you guys drop South Dakota, because South Dakota as a whole state is a freaking hidden gem of incredible fishing opportunity. Anybody in this chat right here, if you're looking to be like, I want to get outside my comfort zone and I want to try something new, start researching South Dakota and just go out and do it. It's just untapped fisheries out there, from the smallest sloughs to big popular lakes. There's low pressure out there and there's nice fish of every
100%.
species.
Yeah, one thing I will tell you too, if you're from Minnesota and you want South Dakota, or if you're from South Dakota and you fish Minnesota, we're not charging anything extra for adding different states in the Midwest product. So if you buy it now and you use it in Minnesota, when South Dakota comes out, you'll be able to use it there and it's not going to cost you anything extra. So really, there's no barrier to entry. The more we develop and build out the map, we're not charging more people. We're not charging people more for that product. So
one thing I want to say too about South Dakota is like, I'll go out there sometimes in the spring before my boat's ready and stuff and do some wader fishing, do some shore fishing. And I use the normal onX Hunt app. There is a ton of shore fishing opportunity out in South Dakota. There's so many of these lakes that meet up with public roads or public land. It's a really awesome place. And it's a great way to use the app out there too.
I love it. All right. Last question of the evening. I think we'll probably close her down after this, but what depth range do you flip weeds? I mean, I know that can be an open-ended question, but give us your best answer. What depth range are you looking when you're flipping weeds?
Yeah. Honestly, any depth range. It could be this much or all the way out to the edge. Sometimes in some lakes, the edge goes out to 22 feet. And in other lakes, the edge goes out to 8 feet. But what I'm looking for most, especially if I'm just cruising the bank, I love where weeds come together and then there's pockets near those weeds. So if there's pads, and you're like, oh, this is a nice patch of pads right here, a good field of pads. I like where there's milfoil or other weeds that come together with it. And then that's where I'll really start flipping. Or if it's a big, long, just expansive flat of pads, I like where there's little pockets of cheese in it. Or if there's little denser section of pads, like that's where I want to flip. Or different weeds that grow within the reeds. Like those are high percentage spots where bass just want to be lazy and lay under stuff that's awesome. And then they just want to feed on stuff that's close to them. So don't be afraid to just flip in the real thick stuff and just use your eyes. I love to use my eyes the most probably when flipping weeds. I don't think depth matters. It matters where weeds come together and they're the thickest and the greenest.
I love it. All right. Well, you've seen probably already in the webinar chat, Jackman has dropped us some giveaway links. So
Nice.
if you haven't checked that out, please do. Jack, are you here to kind of take us home? Is there anything else housekeeping wise we need to make sure? Were there other questions that were hot burning questions that I've missed somehow or somewhere?
Man, I think we got most of them. There was one question in the chat about, is there a way to see clearer satellite imagery? Jim asked that. Jim, what we have on the screen now is the imagery that is available to everybody. So I guess I don't know if Jim was maybe looking at the recent satellite imagery. That is a little bit blurry.
Yeah.
That's recent imagery is not meant to be a replacement for our kind of standard base map imagery. It's an additional tool in the toolbox. So what Joel has right now, if you have the high quality imagery selected, Jim, that's our best imagery that we have available. And as far as the giveaway goes, I'll draw the winners tomorrow and send out an email and get your hats sent out tomorrow as well. Once in a while, somebody does have trouble with that link. There's like some phones have goofy security measures on them with clicking links and stuff. So folks might have to either type that in manually or copy and paste it or something. So if you do have trouble, entering it, click if you do have trouble entering it by clicking on it. I didn't even talk today, and I can't talk at the end of this class. Try to do a copy and paste or type it in manually, and that'll get you to the entry form there.
Great. Well, thanks everybody for attending. I'm really pleased with attendance and everybody that showed up, asked great questions. Sam, take a bow. You're a rock star. Thanks very much.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for the opportunity. Yeah. Thank you so much for letting me be here. And to anybody out there that's looking to do more bass fishing this summer, just go and do it. Get out there and try new lakes. I'm so serious, whether it's close to your house or far away, like go to new water. I've got different buddies that have pushed me to just do new water, because I've got a lot of sneaky holes myself. But when I'm going to new lakes and new bodies of water, that's when it's the most fun, and I'm uncovering more things now than I've ever uncovered.
Great information. Thanks so much from Sam, Jack, and myself. Somebody asked, hey, what about that 101 version? When is onX Fish 101? You can go to onX Hunt's YouTube page, and we've got some old versions of 101 that you can look up, or you can register for the next onX Fish 101, which will probably come in about a month. And we'll go through the app and really take you through it top to bottom, and looking forward to having everybody there. Really appreciate everyone, and have a great night, y'all.
Awesome. Thank you so much.